Welcome to another episode of the YXE Sports Podcast for the week of January the 11th. Hello, welcome back. We took some much needed holiday time over Christmas and New Year's, but we are finally back. It was a fantastic Christmas and New Year's, so Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all that jazz. Hope you and everybody you know are well. It is Matt Morrison. I'm happy to be back in the saddle and slingless as well. I got my sling from my shoulder surgery off. Monty says, welcome back, my friend. It's Monty. Monty, hope you had a good Christmas and New Year's. I hope you were able to stay inside and not, freeze to death outside because it was bitterly cold. So that was one positive about the whole surgery thing. I had my surgery at the start of December. It kind of sucked because holidays were right around the corner. But then when Christmas and New Year's came around, it was minus 45 degrees outside. Omicron is also running rampant. So it was totally okay to just sit inside and chill. But now I'm on the recovery train. But the sling is off the shoulder and the shoulder is feeling good. As is always the situation whenever we take a few weeks off, there's a ton of news to get to, especially locally. And this one topic is probably going to take up the majority of our time. Of course, big thanks to everybody that's watching live on Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar's Facebook page, on the YXE Sports Podcast Facebook page, on YouTube, on No YXE. And of course, everybody, a big thank you to everybody who is listening to the audio version of this podcast. I'm a little rusty today. It's been a while, but a big thanks to everybody that's listening through all the audio version of this podcast as well. But like I said, there is lots of news to get to, especially locally. Please, if you're watching on Facebook, leave your comments, leave your opinions, leave your concerns, leave your thoughts in the comments section, and I'll get to them because this just came down the wire yesterday night, as a matter of fact. So it's roughly 24 hours, maybe even a little less, but 24 hours or so old. Husky Athletics, they are returning this weekend. They are returning at home. The Huskies men's and women's hockey team, they have a home and home with Regina. So the women will play here one night, Regina the next. The men will do vice versa. And then the women and men's volleyball teams are at home against Brandon University. And it was announced last night that for the hockey and the volleyball, there will be no fans, no spectators at attendance at the PAC and Merle Spelcher Place. The university released this statement last night when they made the decision, and it says, due to a current marked increase of COVID-19 cases in Saskatchewan and the rapid spread of the Omicron variant and the guidance of the Chief Medical Office of Health, Husky Athletics has announced that the January 14th and 15th home hockey and volleyball games will be played without spectators in attendance. The statement goes on to say, affected games include Friday and Saturday's men's and women's volleyball games against Brandon University and men's Saturday hockey and women's Friday hockey games against the University of Regina. Of course, they are doing that home and home series, something that they always do with Regina. And it's really too bad because those series are always well attended. The rivalry between these two is next to none in Canada West, so it's too bad that fans can't be in attendance. The statement also goes on to touch on the Sanderson Classic track and field meet. In addition, due to a large number of athletes from multiple universities and the community expected at the 2022 Sanderson Classic track and field meet, the event has been canceled outright. So there is no 2022 Sanderson Classic and field meet. And the statement, if you could just throw up that last one, there you go. Well, disappointing. The decision is following the best advice of public health officials, as well as the university's pandemic response and recovery team. So that was a statement from the University of Saskatchewan. It was on their website, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions on this, myself included. And those of you that I spoke to last night know that I was quite fired up about this decision. Thought sleeping on it would be better, but I didn't really get any sleep last night anyways, not because of that. So now I'm just even more fired up about this decision. Now, my personal opinion on this is that I understand, the need to, have everybody be safe. I understand you're trying to keep the public's best interest in mind. I understand that you're trying to, try to, save our ICU space and our hospital capacity and save the burnout from our healthcare workers. I totally understand all of that. Merle Spelcher Place and the PAC both have proof of mandatory vaccine or negative test, I believe negative test, but proof of vaccine for sure to attend any of their events. Masking is required at these events indoors as well, unless you're obviously actively eating or drinking. In my opinion, I still think that there's a way that this could be done. You could have fans in the stands because of those protocols that are already in place, like masking, like proof of negative test, like proof of vaccine. You got to be fully vaccinated as well. So to me, this decision, I don't agree with it. I'm not the one in charge. I understand if somebody has a different opinion than me, but I think that Husky Athletics is jumping the gun a little bit here when they are making this decision. I would like to know what went into this decision to make this, especially 5 days prior. I mean, Omicron has been around now pretty much since Christmas, and somehow they're deciding to make this decision 4 or 5 days before the weekend games. And I just don't think that it's the right call to make, especially with, like I said, all these protocols that are in place. And now in a lot of the arenas in the National Hockey League, and I understand the NHL, Husky Athletics, student athletes, two very different things. But in Calgary and Edmonton, before the province of Alberta stepped in and said you can't have any gatherings at all, which isn't a thing in Saskatchewan. The Calgary Flames, I know, had 50% capacity at the Scotiabank Saddledome for a few Calgary Flames games. The World Juniors also did this in Edmonton and Red Deer. It was 50% capacity, and there was no food or drink. So the concessions were completely closed. The bar was completely closed, so you couldn't even have food or drink at the World Juniors in Calgary or in Edmonton and Red Deer and Calgary. I would have personally liked to see something like that be implemented here, at least for this weekend at Merlis Belcher Place and the Pack. Then this ensures that A, you're not having sellout crowds at the Pack and Merlis Belcher Place, and B, you're also limiting contacts with your staff and your workers by not having these concessions and these bars open. I just don't understand the logic behind this decision. You could have gone down to 50% capacity at both of these places. You could have even gone down to 25% capacity. I know that in Dauphin, one of my old broadcasting stomping grounds, they have a major junior, or not a major junior team, a junior A team out there, I should say, the Dauphin Kings. They are having a capacity of 250 fans at their hockey games at the rink out in Dauphin. That rink probably only seats 2,500 to 3,000 people. I think something like that for the Pack and Merlis Belcher Place is totally reasonable for this upcoming weekend. I just don't like that they kind of not necessarily rushed to this decision, but they kind of made it last minute. And it's been no secret that Omicron has been around for a while. You know, I mean, obviously the university, the student athletes specifically, which this doesn't really affect the student athletes because they're still getting an opportunity to play, unlike out east. So I know a lot of people are thankful for that, the fact that they can still play. I know the Ontario League for university athletics is, I'm pretty sure, been shut down outright. So those players don't even get an opportunity to even play. So for the athletes in the Canada West, they at least get the opportunity to play. So you got to be, thankful for that if you're a student athlete. See, now I'm getting on these tangents and I forgot even where I was going with this. But that's totally okay. I'm sure it'll come to me. But like I said, I just would have liked to see maybe 25% capacity, 50% capacity, having 100, 200 people. Like I said, the Regina Saskatchewan hockey rivalry is one that's next to none. It's both well attended. And I'll keep in mind down in Regina, they are not having capacity restrictions. So when the Huskies go down to play the Regina Cougars, both the men's and the women's hockey team, they will be having fans in attendance down there. So it is not a Saskatchewan thing. It is strictly a Saskatoon thing at the University of Saskatchewan. And like I said, I just think that there could have been some other ways that we've gone about this to make sure that you keep everybody safe. The Husky hockey team is at home on January 21st and 22nd as well. They haven't made a decision for those weekend or that weekend set of games yet. And that is also interesting. I don't know what they think is going to change over the course of the next 5 days. If you're making the decision to not have spectators in attendance this weekend, this upcoming weekend, I'm not sure what's going to change the weekend after. I'm not sure why you wouldn't just put the kibosh on the fans that weekend as well. If you're doing it on this weekend, maybe they're thinking that it's magically going to disappear. I'm not really sure what the thought process is for them. Who knows? Maybe they do end up not having spectators in attendance on January 21st and 22nd, but I think that you need to make that decision now. There's a lot of people, a lot of players on the Huskies hockey team, men's and women's, on the volleyball teams. A lot of these student athletes come from British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba. Sometimes their parents will come out to watch them play at home. Well, sometimes these parents can only make it out certain weekends. What if this upcoming weekend was one of those weekends that they had planned to come out, and then 4 or 5 days before the weekend series, you make that decision? So the timing of this is just a little weird for me, especially since Omicron has been as rampant as it has been. I mean, everybody saw the signs. Everybody knew that the cases were going to skyrocket. We've known this since Christmas, so I'm not sure what the University of Saskatchewan was waiting for. And then they ended up dropping down the hammer last night in a press release, like I just read on the university website. SaskTel Center is still having fans. They're planning to go ahead with the Saskatchewan Rush game this upcoming Friday. Of course, that was a game that was originally scheduled for New Year's Eve that ended up getting canceled, not because of the Rush or not because of SaskTel Center, but because the National Lacrosse League themselves decided to just put the games on pause. But they're having that makeup game this upcoming weekend. So that's what's new with Husky Athletics. I know exactly where I was going with my earlier tangent as well. Of course, we all know the toll that it took on athletes in 2020, not being able to play in 2020. There was a lot of universities that didn't see that money roll in because they couldn't play. So they didn't have the money. They didn't have the fans in the stands. Obviously, it wasn't their fault, but I look at the University of Lethbridge hockey program that had to shut down because there just wasn't money in it. So, that's another thing as well. A lot of these universities are up against the wall in terms of dollars and not having dollars come in or having less dollars come in. And then the University of Saskatchewan here, makes this decision to not have fans, not have that little bit of extra money come in, which is also a little bit puzzling in that regard. But that's just me. That's one man's opinion. This is something that I just feel like with these protocols in place, the masking, the proof of vaccine, the proof of negative test, all this sort of thing, don't have the concessions open, don't have the bar open. I think that there is a way to do this safely, even if it is at 25 or 50% capacity. There's all the people that bought tickets that maybe this weekend is the only weekend that works for them. But unfortunately, if you want to see the Huskies play hockey, you'll have to go down to Regina. If you wanted to play, or you were hoping to see the Huskies play volleyball in person this weekend, that's not going to be a thing either. And I love university sports, and I love the University of Saskatchewan. The Huskies programs are fantastic programs. All their sport programs, all their athletic programs are, typically they do very well. They're very successful in terms of their on-ice product, on-court product, on-field product. I mean, the Husky football team went to the Vanier Cup this year, and they almost pulled it out. They lost to Western in a just a real nail-biter of a football game. The University of Saskatchewan men's Husky hockey team is doing well. They're probably poised for another run at the championship and hopefully nationals if that doesn't get canceled again. So, there's reasons to cheer on the Huskies because they're on ice product, they're on field product, they're on court product. Both men's and women's are typically very strong. University sports is one of the best kept secrets, in my opinion. I don't think it gets the love that it deserves. Part of the reason is, because sometimes access to these games is a little bit tough. They don't have a significant TV deal. They don't have the money for a significant TV deal or things like that. So they're up against it a little bit. So the best way to get your word out about your university programs is by being able to go out and see the games. The PAC is a beautiful facility. Marlis Belcher Place is a beautiful facility, state-of-the-art, top-notch, and you're not allowing people to get out and see those games in person. And really, that's typically the only way that people are going to know about university sports. It's a cheap night out. It's a great night out. It's a fun night out. All things to love. There's no bad reason or bad logic not to go to support the Husky Athletics, although they're making it very hard on people who actually do want to get out and support Husky Athletics. So that is my rant of the day. Of course, the Huskies making that decision, Husky Athletics making that decision. I don't know if it was Husky Athletics. I don't know if it was the University of Saskatchewan itself, but either way, this decision did come down. Monty asks if my dad, of course, Ray Morrison, is doing the Huskies play-by-play. Yes, the Huskies play-by-play will still go ahead. You can listen to that on the Husky Fan app. Download it if you haven't already, but the Husky Fan app will bring you the men's and women's hockey games from this upcoming weekend. So that's what's new in Husky athletics. What's not new is our same great sponsor, and that is Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar in Saskatoon. And they are continuing to do an awesome job. The NFL playoffs are right around the corner. Those start this weekend, so make sure you get on down to Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar to watch all your NFL playoffs. They'll have the wild card weekend, they'll have the divisional weekend, and of course, they're going to have the biggest Super Bowl party. Super Bowl falls on Sunday, February 13th this year, so make sure you get on out to Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar on Idlewild and Circle Drive in Saskatoon. I'm going to throw a little bit of a wrench in producer Ian's criteria. I really only said that I was going to talk about the Husky athletics and stuff like that, but I'm in a little bit of a not argumentative mood, but I'm in a mood for debate. So just before I went on the logged on to do the podcast tonight, Ray Morrison, who we just talked about, put a poll on Twitter, and this is very interesting as well. And this is something that probably deserves its own episode in itself, but you can go to Ray Morrison's Twitter account and you can vote on this poll as well. 1 hour ago, he tweeted out, "Let's take a poll and get some reaction. Which facility will be replaced first? The Brandt Center in Regina," of course, that's where the Regina Pats play, or the SaskTel Center in Saskatoon, where the Rush, the Blades, and the Saskatchewan Rattlers play. So, of course, everybody, if you're from Saskatoon, everybody knows that Saskatoon has been in the running for a new arena, a downtown entertainment district, they're calling it, for a long, long time. So there's also rumblings of the Brandt Center potentially being replaced as well. So as of right now, a lot of people are thinking that the Brandt Center in Regina is going to be replaced before the SaskTel Center in Saskatoon. 56% of the vote says that the Brandt Center in Regina will get replaced, as opposed to just the 44% who think that the SaskTel Center will be replaced in Saskatoon as well. So make sure you go and vote on that poll as well. Like I said, that's something that is an episode that we could probably just do on our own. The downtown arena debate is a debate that also I feel very passionate about. Maybe not quite as passionate as about what we just talked about, but I think a lot of people will agree with me in the fact that Saskatoon does need a new arena, a new entertainment district is what they would call it. Obviously, there's hoops to jump through. There's a whole bunch of logistics to figure out, but I think everybody thinks that it's a good idea, at least, to have this new arena or entertainment district in Saskatoon. I can't really speak for the Brandt Center. I think the Brandt Center has been around for 20 or so years, maybe closer to 25, 30. Of course, it used to be called the Agridome. That seats about 6,500 fans, I think, maybe 7,000, but it's now the Brandt Center. I can honestly say I haven't been in the Brandt Center for a long, long time, so I'm not sure what the condition of it is. I always kind of just drive right past it as I go to Mosaic Stadium down in Regina, where the Riders play, or to catch a concert or that sort of thing. One more note before we wrap up for this week's episode of the YXE Sports Podcast. If you haven't heard about the Saskatoon Blades lately, you're not living under a rock. Their team activities were paused due to COVID-19 protocols, but they were back on the ice today. They have been cleared by the league to resume regular scheduled team activities after being placed in the COVID-19 protocol. I think there's like 7 or 8 teams in there. So they are back on the ice. They were practicing today. They have a home and home with the Swift Current Broncos this weekend. And again, no COVID restrictions at SaskTel Center or at the Credit Union iPlex, whatever the rink down in Swift Current is called. So maybe if you're looking for something to do this weekend, you can head on out to the Blades game on Friday or Saturday, I guess, because the Rush are at home on Friday. So if you're looking for something to do on Saturday, if you don't have plans, maybe you originally had some other plans, but due to no fault of your own, they are no longer things, go out, check out the Saskatoon Blades. And I thought about this before the podcast as well, but we really don't have time to do it now. But, I would like to see a poll, much like Ray Morrison just put on Twitter, a poll of when you feel safe returning to in-person sporting events. That is also something that a lot of different opinions would be on that particular topic. There would be a lot of different opinions, and that's okay. If you don't agree with me, that's okay. If I don't agree with you, that should be okay too. I just want everybody to get along, and having a difference of opinion isn't a bad thing, right? If the world was, if everybody was the same, everybody had the same opinion, then the world would be a boring place. So that wraps things up for this week's edition of the YXE Sports Podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in, whether you were watching, whether you were listening. A big thanks. And I think we're planning on doing this again next week. So until then, see you later.